It's the middle of June, and we're approaching Midsummer, or the summer solstice, the longest day here in the Northern Hemisphere. I've been sitting on my favourite bench along a walking route called the Viking Way in Lincolnshire in the east of England, pretty close to where I live, overlooking the fields and the landscape that lies beyond the Jurassic Ridge that this path follows towards Nottinghamshire. It's on this bench, early last year, sitting between a break in the dense hawthorn hedge that shelters the fields behind and harbours a great number of wildflowers and other wildlife, that the idea for this podcast was born. Welcome to Edge of the Hedge, a monthly podcast guiding you in rekindling and nurturing your connection with nature through sensory exploration and contemplation. Episode 1, Linden Trees in Midsummer. I'm Hannah Sylvester, a herbalist and nature educator from Lincolnshire in the UK, and each month I'll be taking you on an audio journey, guiding you in awakening your senses and making connection with the more than human world. This month we'll be taking a walk through the fields, listening to the skylarks, watching the swallows swoop over the barley, and taking a trip to reconnect with a favourite tree, the linden tree. And right in front of me, there's this beautiful field of quite light green, turning golden barley that usually, when you're sat here and there's a little bit of a breeze, you can see the wind swirling around the field and blowing the blades of barley as it does so. It's quite mesmerising, really. So there's been some barn swallows nesting in a derelict building just up the way. Oh, they're beautiful. And what they're doing right now is they're chasing each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wow, okay. 8 barn swallows just swooping just above the top of the barley with their dark top feathers and their pale bellies and their pointy tails. Just looks like they're almost just brushing the top of the barley as they go by. It's stunning to see. What I'm going to do is head back home and then take a drive out to somewhere where I can introduce you to one of my favourite trees. This is the perfect time of year for going and sitting with it and learning about it. And learning about it by sitting with it. So I really hope that where I'm going is still going to have some beautiful limes. I know exactly where they are, but I'm just not sure if they're accessible anymore, so let's hope they are. Okay, better get going. Fantastic. Okay. So I've made it to the place that I really, really wanted to come, which is where I first discovered, well, not so much discovered, but the place where I first really fell in love with the lime tree. It's a place called Riseholme in Lincolnshire, which is just to the north of the city. And Riseholme's been quite a few things over the years, but it's always sort of been an educational establishment, and at the moment it's part of the University of Lincoln. And imagine my glee when I got here and pulled up outside where I wanted to come to and found that there was a permissive footpath. So I'm really glad I can actually get onto the site where it all first started, really. So let's go through the gate. Hello, sheep. Oh, some lovely lambs up here. Back in June 2012, if my memory serves me right, I was up here for a conference that I was attending, and as part of that conference there was lots of different activities going on, one of which was a plant study. So this particular afternoon we were taken outside and introduced to the lime tree, sometimes known as Linden Tree, and also known in Latin as Tilia. So this is what I'm on the hunt for today. There's some beautiful ones up just by the gate, and lots of gorgeous linden trees down this path. But I just want to see if I can find that original tree. But oh my word, the wildlife around here is fantastic, and there are so many beautiful lambs as well, and sheep. Let's see what we can find. One thing I absolutely love about coming out into country fields is seeing massive old trees. And there's some really beautiful ones around here, and I've just seen over in a dead tree right in the middle of the field over there a massive bird, I don't know what it was, fly out of a hole in the tree. I wonder if it's nesting there. Do you know what? That is a real shame. I can't actually get to the part of the campus that I want to get to, but actually that's okay. It's the sign on the gate says that it's been closed off due to the pandemic, but that it'll be open again soon, which is really nice to hear. But just to actually be on the same patch of land that I first discovered the linden tree on is really quite special, because to be honest, the landscape and treescape kind of mirrors what's on the other side of that gate, which is really great. I just can't get to my original tree, but that's alright, because I found an amazing specimen. on the footpath that I walked up to get here. And by my guessing, it's about the same size thereabouts as the one that I spent time with initially. Just absolutely stunning. And you kind of, one thing I always like to see about the linden tree is that it's really accessible, and it's often used as tree cover for lining urban streets with. And one of the things that can give it away is that if it's kind of left to do its own thing to a certain extent, what you find is that at the bottom of the trunk, towards the bottom of the trunk, and to be honest, sort of going up the bottom part of the trunk, you find all these shaggy little leaves and branches coming off the main trunk. It's almost like it's wearing leg warmers. If anyone remembers leg warmers from the 80s. But, so it's almost like it's protecting its base, or inviting us in, who knows. There's quite a lot of pheasants around here too. And this is how you really tell lime tree apart, because it's got these beautiful heart-shaped leaves with a very, very, very pointy speared tip. And it looks like one of the heart's bulges at the top is slightly higher on one side than the other. And at this time of year, they're this beautiful, sort of deep, beautiful sort of rich green colour. They're quite dark on the top, and then kind of lighter underneath, with these very delicate veins running all the way through the leaf, and then quite a long leaf stalk that attaches it to the main branch. But the edges of the leaf are quite serrate. They're like the edge of a knife, edge of a sharp knife. And even though it's a really soft, yet quite strong leaf, that when it's held up to the light, you can see all of the tiny veins running all the way through it. You can see it's this really definitive kind of saw-like edge to the leaves. It's really quite astonishingly beautiful. And down at the bottom of this one I'm looking at, it's got loads of different grasses around it at the minute. And there's some gorgeous moss. Just down at the bottom of it, it's really moist. Very good little mosses. But then you've got the bark, which is tough, really tough, and striated with sort of cracked streaks going all the way down it. And there's so much life in these cracks, as well as the little stalks coming out. There's ants and there's spiders. And goodness knows whatever else. But it's such a strong, thick trunk that just seems to go on forever. And this is a really tall tree. But then, just out of arm's reach, I kind of reach up. It's about another foot away. Then you get all of these perfectly round branches coming off the main trunk. There's loads of them. So when you stand underneath the canopy, it just has this amazingly complex structure of perfectly round branches coming off all the way up the trunk. And then they're covered in these beautiful heart-shaped leaves. Now, standing under here and looking up, this very much brings back a memory. Because the sun is just trying to push through the clouds. And what happens with Linden, particularly at this time of year, is that when it comes into flower, it attracts so many bees. Now, the season's a little bit late this year, so it's not quite ready to come into flower yet. But this is one of the really nice things about linden that's been allowed to grow, not being chopped back too much, because off the outer branches that are closer to the sun, you get these beautiful sort of pale green, sort of finger-length, what are called bracts coming off them. And off those bracts, there's a little tiny, delicate, inch-long stalk that the flowers will grow from, and they are almost ready. I would say maybe in another week, maybe 2, depending on how the weather goes. They'll be ready for coming out. And when those flowers start to bloom, that is when this tree turns into something truly special. Because when you then stand underneath the canopy of it, even on a small one, but particularly on big ones like these, what you can see when you gaze up, particularly on a sunny day, is you hear that rustle, and then you see hundreds and thousands of bees going about their business, collecting pollen from the flowers, and just making the most beautiful chorus of buzzing that you have ever heard. And the smell is absolutely intoxicating. It smells as sweet as honey. And to sit underneath a linden tree in full flower in June really is absolutely the most peaceful experience you're likely to have in the summer. So go and seek out your linden trees. Look out for those heart-shaped leaves and that really jagged, serrate, knife-like edge that it has, with one of the little bulges of the top of the heart just kind of shrugging its shoulder a bit. And then sit and watch it as the season progresses, and wait for the flowers, and then go and sit and look up and watch and smell and really take in the hearty, beautiful aroma and sight that is the linden tree. It was so good to revisit that patch of linden trees. Wherever you live, why not seek out your local linden trees and see if you can find one with branches hanging low enough for you to explore the leaves and bracts and flowers. Or if not, just spend some time standing under one when it's in full flower and enjoy that multi-sensory experience of its midsummer blooms. When you spend time with the linden tree, what do you notice? How does it make you feel? It would be so lovely to hear about your experience of the linden tree this summer, whether that be in photos or in words. So do feel free to tag Edge of the Hedge in your Instagram, Facebook and Twitter posts so that we can all share the beauty of this fantastic tree together. I'll be sharing some of my images from the trip to Riseholme and some information about the linden tree in the show notes and across social media. I really hope you've enjoyed this first episode of Edge of the Hedge, and it would be so lovely if you could leave a rating or review of it on whatever platform you're listening to, and share with your friends and family and people who you think might enjoy it too. Join me again next month in the 3rd week of July for episode 2 of Edge of the Hedge. And I hope you can join me for future episodes, where I'll be joined by special guests from many walks of life who find inspiration by spending time with nature. Thank you for listening. Take good care of yourself and the rest of nature that surrounds us. You've been listening to Edge of the Hedge, a podcast written, recorded and produced by Hannah Sylvester, with original music by Mark Holmes.